Are refrigerants going to be affected by recent bills introduced in Congress? In today's video, we're going to talk about some recent bills that have been introduced. Some of these bills don't affect us as homeowners specifically, but some of these could be signs of things to come. And so the bill that I'm specifically talking about, I'll put a link down in the description of this video to this article. And it's talking about how at the end of last year, the Department of Energy had a final rule pertaining to energy conservation standards for walk-in coolers and freezers. Now, why does this matter to us as homeowners? Well, ultimately, we're seeing changes that are being made at the highest levels that affect us, and some of these changes could affect things to come. And I'll get to why that is later in this video. Now, this article that I'll put a link to does go through other timelines, things that are going to be changing this year and years to come, but I don't know that any of that matters. And here's why. A representative in Congress, Stephanie Bice, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Oklahoma, introduced a joint resolution seeking to nullify the new energy conservation standards for walk-in coolers and freezers. And so this was introduced just days before the Trump administration was inaugurated. This was introduced on January 16th of 2025. And it says in an article for Fox News, Representative Bice said, the Biden administration has done everything it can to regulate aspects of our homes and businesses. Walk-in coolers and freezers are used every day. The pharmacies, convenience stores, food processing facilities, food banks, restaurants, and more. These rules continue to add unnecessary burdens on everyday Americans and ultimately suppress consumer choice, unquote. And so they're looking to repeal a lot of these rules. And most of the rules that they're talking about specifically here, again, are for walk-in coolers and freezers, and it's got to do with the doors and how efficient the systems are. But it says this is the second attempt by Republicans to roll back environmental regulations enacted during the Biden administration. On January 24th, Congressman Neil Dunn from Florida introduced a resolution directing Congress to nullify a recent EPA rule relating to the management of HFC refrigerants used in refrigeration systems. According to Dunn, a quote, American grocers and restaurants do not need government regulations in their kitchens and storerooms, driving up operating costs and forcing them to pass the cost on to the consumer. So again, this is restaurants, this is grocery stores and things like that, but they are taking aim at some of these regulations. Now, do I think that we're going to see something where they're going to repeal the AIM Act, where they're going to say, hey, we're now going to stay with 410A refrigerant and we're not going to switch to these A2L refrigerants? I think that we're too far down that rabbit hole for that to happen. I think if that was going to happen, the Trump administration in their first term would have done something to affect that timeline. However, this could affect the overall timeline of things. They may say, hey, for years to come, we're not going to be making any more changes. We saw just switching to A2L refrigerants have driven up costs of HVAC equipment yet again. And I say yet again because we've seen numerous, because of the inflation and because of the new CO2 ratings over the last handful of years, we have seen prices for HVAC equipment multiply, not just go up percentages, but multiply quite significantly. And so a system that would have cost, a few $1,000s a few years ago is now in some cases double that amount today. This all plays a big role in that. I mean, even if it's not a rule that specifically affects the next system you're about to buy, it shows you big time the cards of the folks that are making the decisions. And I do believe within the next 12 months, we could see concrete decisions that affect the timeline of all of these things. A2L refrigerants, the timeline of the AIM Act, and several of the things that we've talked about here on the YouTube channel. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this down in the comment section, because I have heard from folks with different thoughts on this and different ideas, but ultimately we did a video where the Biden administration in the last days of their tenure made a rule on water heaters. And we've also seen just day one, when Trump took office, executive orders that were put in place that affect a lot of the rebates and incentives we saw with the Inflation Reduction Act. So lots of changes, lots of things are happening big time right now. And I do think we could see again very soon some things that do affect the equipment that we're buying and the timeline of things, some concrete decisions made. So make sure you subscribe if you are not subscribed to our channel, and hit that bell icon so you are notified when these things come out. We will try to stay on top of it. But this has been brewing. We knew something was going to happen once the Trump administration stepped in, but now we're actually seeing bills introduced to Congress, once they are made into law, could really affect the timeline of all of these things and affect pricing and affect a lot of things that, yes, still affects us even in residential, even when these decisions are not necessarily specific to residential. So again, I'll put a link to this down in the description of the video. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll just end with this. Some of these rules are not for residential specifically, but I do think overall, when we see lawmakers specifically looking at our industry and some of the changes, no matter which side you're on, whether they're looking to kick the can down the road or they're looking to make a change now, they are specifically looking at our industry alone when they're making these decisions. If you like this video, I think you'll like this one even more. It's where we talk about how the US government is stockpiling these refrigerants that they're banning. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.